Mr. Happy Living here, and I'm happy to be broadcasting from WITV7 in the beautiful Queen City. For just a minute and imagine how incredible you'd feel living the unique and distinct life you were put on this planet to live, doing work you love, with people you love, in places you love, and all the while creating something of real value for others. That's what I call a life of significance. And I can tell you it makes for a very happy life. And so can Dr. Jeff Wilson. He's my guest star today, and he's here to share his unique and distinct journey to his life of significance. Hey, Jeff, welcome to the show.
Hey, Matt, thanks so much for having me. So thrilled to be here with you today, and love what I've seen from your website. So can't wait to get going on this.
Right on. So why don't you just get us started by telling us what you're doing these days to make your significance on the world?
Well, as I approach my 62nd birthday in 2 months here, I would say that I'm having the most dynamic time of my life ever, and I'm having the most fun. And I just look forward to what I say is the second half of my life, because I plan on going to 120. So, well, yeah, what I'm doing right now is, as a retired superintendent, I've actually taken over a family business. So I have a small business owner, and we work in the medical field. We calibrate pipettes. And pipettes are those wonderful syringe-looking things that measure very minute levels of liquids, and they're extremely important in patient care. And our business has a niche business to do that. That's not my passion, though. So my passion is found in two entrepreneurial ventures that I'm involved with right now that really are on the doorstep of launching. One of those is called Pension 101, and as a 30-year educator, one of the things I discovered along the way was the lack of resources and the lack of knowledge on the part of educators with regards to their pensions and what their retirement would actually look like. And they've become overly reliant on pension systems and their communications. And so working with a couple of wonderful young fiduciaries and two amazing coders who were senior level programmers and coders, we have developed a platform and a website that's going to be a huge resource in our mind for every American educator moving off in the future. And we're starting here in California with this state teacher retirement system here in California, but we have big plans about moving this nationwide and actually adapting it to all the pension systems across the states here. Essentially, it's a place where educators can go and they can model their pensions on an intuitive platform that's very user-friendly, gives them a lot of information. They can enter things on sliders. They can model scenarios. So let's say a teacher was thinking about becoming a principal, right? What would that mean for my retirement? What would that mean for my lifetime income? What would be my optimal retirement date? How do my sick days factor in? So this is something that doesn't exist anywhere else. And we are really thrilled to get that thing launched probably around April 1st. My role is I'm not a fiduciary, and I'm not a programmer, certainly. I am the chief educator. And what's great, Matt, is this. I'm working with 4 32-year-olds and then the 62-year-old guy.
Great. You're young.
And it's just amazing. So that's exciting for me. I've written about 100 articles so far to get that website ready to go. And we're trying to provide educator resources on things like leadership and career pathing and wellness, lifestyle choices, financial planning. So that's kind of my focus right now, is on developing the content that goes into the site. And then moving forward after this, as we go to launch, I'll be traveling around the state, meeting with superintendents, union leaders really are super excited about what they've seen with this, because they've been looking for resources for years for their teachers. So that's one thing. And then the last thing, I'll keep this one quick, is the second venture is called Freetirement Academy. You kind of see it over my shoulder here. And in this, we're targeting really everybody out there who's approaching retirement or who has recently retired and is really looking at their overall portfolio and balancing things and ensuring that they don't outlive their retirement savings. And so with that one, we have developed a 7-course basic course that's got about 30 total videos within there, looking at everything from how interest rates and market volatility and taxes and everything else factors into your portfolio building, looking at longevity factors and things like that. So I've been in this studio recording those videos over the last several months, and we're sending them out for editing. And then we developed an advanced seminar for folks to jump into as well, looking at things like charitable vehicles, like how can I have a great retirement, right? And do the things I want to do and build that legacy and leave something for my kids, and at the same time have a positive impact on society. So that's the second half of my venture. So not much of a retirement so far, Matt. I'm just kind of winding up right now.
Sounds like a good one to me. We got to keep busy. That's the secret to staying young.
Absolutely.
So, but we also need power and purpose to stay young. So let's do a little mathematics, so our friends all around the world can get to know you, not what you're doing, but how you do it through our happy formula. It's a simple but powerful equation that goes like this: power plus purpose equals happy. Let's start with power. What are your personal practices for building up all the power you need to get things done, whether it's physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, emotionally? In other words, Jeff, what do you do on a regular basis to create all the power you need to take really good care of yourself and your loved ones, and still have plenty of juice left over to be a giver to others?
So absolutely, it's super important. When I saw that formula, Matt, to be honest with you, I went, that's it. When you added the giving part, by the way. But yeah, the power part of that. So when I retired as a superintendent, having spent 30 years in public education and having my time pretty much dictated by the beginning and end of schools, plus the prep time and all that. When I retired, my wife has remained a teacher. So she's still a public school teacher. She gets up every morning at 5:30. I get up with her. That's step one. I get up with her. I don't stay in bed. I don't, just hang out with the dogs. And that time from that point till, depends on the morning and what my other activities are, is spent in reading and meditating and enjoying the outdoors, getting out and soaking up the sun. When it's out, like this morning was beautiful. I was out there in my backyard, which brings me to another part of my power. I over the last 20 years, I have taken a modest house, not a huge lot, but enough. And I have developed my backyard to be a refuge for me and for my friends and for my family. And I kind of set about, when I did that, of developing every square foot of that backyard. There's no wasted space. So there are multiple areas for people to sit together. There's like what I call the smoking prayer meditation garden. There's the bar with the TV. We were all over there yesterday with our friends watching the NFC and AFC championship games. So that's the second part of this thing. It's super important for my wife and I on the weekends to get out there and have our coffee in the morning and have a glass of wine in the evening and really enjoy that. So that brings me a lot of power and a lot of peace.
Big part of significance, places you love, people you love.
Absolutely. And bringing those two together, and we do that regularly, is super important. I try very hard now to get to the gym in the late afternoon, at least 3 times a week, but my goal is always 4 or 5. And that's hugely important for me. And I have to remember that. Something I've kind of failed at a little bit lately coming out of the holidays is the eating thing, but I feel like I'm back on track and eating the right things and the right portions. And so, I'd say that's where my base comes from. But ultimately, it's always going to be relationship. As you get to know me and know my story, it's I derive my energy and my power from the people I associate with, the people I love, and that I cherish. Absolutely.
Very good. Well, let's dive into my favorite power generating concept. It's called a Kaizen state of mind. And it's this beautiful Japanese idea that small incremental improvements add up over time to yield great big results. And I love it, Jeff, because it's based on mindset, not circumstance. Kaizening life is knowing there's always something I can do better tomorrow than today.
Right.
And for me, it creates an optimistic, gentle, but very powerful and continuously uplifting of my life day after day after day. So Jeff, how does Kaizening your life, or your backyard for that matter, or your business, how does Kaizening your life help increase your power to continuously become more so you can continuously give more?
Yeah, it's an amazing concept, isn't it? And I'll start with sort of the reverse of that. My life has gone in so many directions with regards to career and degrees and things like that. I've had that my lovely wife for over 35 years. We've been together and stayed together and going strong. So that's been solid there, but everything else has evolved. Right. So, you look backwards, and sometimes my wife would catch me And she said, remember, no regrets, right? And we would think back about all the decisions that were made along that journey. Should I have gotten that master's degree, which I really didn't end up using? Should I have taken that time out of my life and spent that money on that? And ultimately, it's the sum total of all of those experiences, positive and negative, good and bad,
Yeah.
which have allowed me to incrementally grow throughout my life. And so, yeah, that's where Kaizen definitely plays into this. And as I now look forward, I also understand I'm not done evolving. And the excitement for me going into my second half of my 120-year life is what's that going to look like by the end? My dad went to 101 and really kept evolving until, his late 90s. And so, yeah, I'm excited by that. And I think it's gosh, what is it? It's the secret sauce of life, right?
Yeah. Well, the one thing, if you take care of yourself and you take that long perspective, it takes a lot of pressure off,
Yeah,
because we got, you and I, we got 60 years left to go.
that's
And
right.
and hopefully we've gained a little wisdom along the way, so they should be better years. That's what Kaizen, for me, that's what it is. That
Yeah.
means really every day can get better and better. And just imagine getting better and better and better till the very end.
So you're saying I should be learning from my mistakes along the way
Should
there,
be.
man?
I would recommend it.
Okay.
So, all right, let's move on to purpose. That's the second element of the happy formula. And Jeff, I've observed that the big major life transformations or discovery of purpose often come from devastation, sadly.
Mm.
Addiction, abuse, disease, death, disaster, something awful strips a life to its core, resulting in some big change. However, in my book, Turning Inspiration into Action, I share the transformational process that I've used to discover purpose in my life using inspiration. So how about you, Jeff? Was there a specific moment or event or crisis or inspiration that revealed to you the purpose you were meant to live?
Well, it's a great question. Thinking back across my life, there's been different checkpoints of disappointment and a sense of a lack of purpose. I can think of one in particular when I was a young guy. I have a ministerial degree. I don't know if you knew that, Matt, but I have a
Oh, I
ministerial
didn't.
degree, a master's of divinity. My plan had been initially to go into youth ministry. One thing I knew is I love kids. I love working with kids.
Yeah.
I was the guy who was at summer camp all summer, all the time. And I kind of evolved into being a camp counselor and a KP, anything I could do to stay at camp. I did that. And so it just, as a sort of a lost guy coming out of high school, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I ended up getting an accounting degree, which just helped me a bunch. That's one of those times, by the way, when I thought, why did I do that?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my goodness, what a useful degree. But having come out of that, I made a decision to kind of pursue the youth ministry thing full time. And so I went and got that master's degree in divinity. And as I was moving, I grew up in a church, a big church in LA, and I was so ingrained in that church, and the men on that elder board were my heroes. And then we hit a snag with the senior pastor who hired me, who, let's just say, got into some very deep and disturbing things, like we've seen in the news a lot.
Mm,
And some of the victims of that had come to me, and I was a very young guy,
mm,
really late 20s, and I reached out to try to help solve that problem by connecting them with a couple of the elders. Well, as a result of that, I was accused of being disloyal to the senior pastor by him, and I was released.
mm.
And I was lost. I was floundering. At first I was frustrated with the whole thing, but I think, you go through the stages of grief. I've spent a big part of my life processing what happened to me in that moment, and the effects it had on my faith and the effects it had on church attendance and everything else. It really had an impact. And there was years of bitterness about that. But in the end, it's been such an important piece for me to transition back to how can I help people in a different way. And so, reflecting across my career, my happy times have always been when I've been able to have a positive impact on folks' lives, and specifically kids. And I've had, so many wonderful students who came through my tutelage as a teacher and a principal. I always say my favorite job ever was principal, just because of the broad impact I could have on so many kids and parents really in the community. So, yeah, it was a turning point. It was a part of, what made me into who I am. And then there was a second one I'll just share with you real quickly, because it's really important to know about Freetirement Academy and Pension 101. I was a superintendent, and like so many of them across the nation, I had a board president walk in with an attorney one day and say, "You've done nothing wrong. You're a great guy. You've done everything we've asked you to do, but you no longer can work here." And that's how, unfortunately, my career ended in public education. And again, some hurt, but as a mature adult, process that fairly quickly, realizing it's happened to about 20 to 30% of superintendents across the nation in these political upheavals. And I've moved on.
What's the rationale? Why did that happen to 20% of the?
Well, that's a good question. I when people ask me that, I say, essentially, we are such a polarized people right now in this nation, and people have run out of places to go scream and yell, right? Like, they can't really access the federal government to voice their displeasure. They really can't even access the state government. I mean, they try, but they really don't have any kind of an impact in that setting. So what we began to find out as superintendents were folks who were politically divided or incensed about something. Their place to voice that is at the board level in school districts. And so, Placentia, Yorba Linda, Temecula Valley, the district that I was in last, saw heavy duty conflict. And a lot of this was supercharged, of course, by the COVID pandemic and everything that happened around that. The closing of schools, the opening of schools, the forced mask wearing, the vaccination issues. These are all politically charged things that landed on the doorstep of the Board of Education in these districts. And there was really many no-win situations. So yeah. I think it's the access. I think simply they could have access to a governmental body that they had to that had to listen to them.
And so the day that you were fired, completely unexpected?
Completely unexpected. To this day, I still don't know why it happened. And
wow,
and it's
how long ago was that?
It's been I was noticed almost 2 years ago next month.
Okay.
But the good news was, I mean, this is how well they thought of me. They said, "We want you to stay and work on through June and keep doing what you're doing because you're doing a great job."
That's good.
And just to be completely transparent, they then subsequently brought back their old superintendent who was waiting in the wings.
All right. And then so this one last question: where you are today, before the startups have started up, so those are always super exciting. I've been involved in a few, and it's really exciting, but there's a lot of anxiety. Is it going to work? And so when you're there at this stage, you don't know the outcome yet. You don't know the future. Would you, if you could go back and with a wand and change it, that you were not fired, would you do that today?
No.
Good.
I'm in a really cool place. Again, spending a career having your schedule dictated to you, having to walk such politically fine lines.
Yeah.
And honestly, the superintendency, the reason I always say the principal job was my favorite job was because, my goodness, you are with the kids, you're with your teachers, you are with your community. When kids are having a bad day, you can lift them up. When a parent needs support in the home, you can help them. As a superintendent, you have all these layers between you and the kids. And even though I got out to campuses all the time, it just wasn't the same.
Yeah. That's so that's an important, and we'll go to break after this. That's an important lesson to learn for us, but also for our listeners. As you start to grow a business, a startup, how do you keep it entrepreneurial? How do you keep it small? How do you scale it? Because we all want to scale it as big as can be, but the bigger it gets, the less and less you have that touch.
Yeah.
I would encourage you with your new startups, make that a part of the plan early on, and maybe you end up pushing that further and further away.
Absolutely. I'm up to any advice you got for me, Matt. These are my first 2 startup ventures, and I can't be more excited about where we are right now. Of course, everything's taken longer than we thought, but the teams I'm working with on these 2 ventures are successful, smart, diverse. These are I call them kids. I mean, they're in their 30s, but each of them has already made it to the top of their field in either in the financial advisement business or in the programming coding business. So I'm just working with all stars, and it's great.
That's great. All right, Jeff, let's take a break. So our sponsor can spread a little love with our audience.
Sounds good.
If you have more ideas than actions, if you have more promises than change, if you're ready for the life you are meant to live, then TI2A is the book for you. back, and this is the Something Significant Show, and I'm your host, Matt Gersper. And my special guest star today is Dr. Jeff Wilson. After a long and illustrious career in education with the Arcadia Unified School District, the San Marino Unified School District, and culminating as a superintendent at Claremont Unified School District, Jeff has leapt all in to the entrepreneurial world as the Chief Educational Officer at Pension 101 and the Freetirement Academy. Oh, Jeff, I just love
Freetirement.
Freetirement. What did I say?
You said free retirement, but that's okay.
Freetirement. Yes, sir. So I love that. And I think you're going to love this article that I found on livescience.com. It's called The Science Behind the Power of Giving. And it actually says that the act of giving itself can be a gateway for discovering your reason for being on the planet. It tells how science supports the idea that giving one's time and talents and treasures is a powerful pathway for discovering purpose and overcoming difficulties and finding fulfillment and meaning in life. So I updated our formula. Power plus purpose plus giving equals really happy. So what do you think, Jeff? Has giving your time and your talents and your treasure been a pathway for discovering your purpose and for getting past difficulties you've faced and for bringing real meaning into your life?
Wow, absolutely. And, I loved, like I said earlier, when I saw that part of the formula, because, I'll talk about Pension 101, really the brainchild of a gentleman named Vasper Antonisian, who is my partner. And Vasper came to this country as an immigrant student, as a young guy. And because of his language barriers, I think on the East Coast, I want to say New York, but I believe it was New York. He was put into his first couple of classrooms and was treated as lower intellectual because of the language barriers. And he was put in remedial courses. What his teachers didn't know was he had studied way beyond the levels of mathematics being taught already in his native homeland. And it was one teacher who saw it in him, who invested in him and went to the principal and said, we got to get around these barriers that's keeping this kid out of where he should be. Got him into those right classes. He just went on to soar from that moment, ended up with a full ride scholarship to UCLA. Like I said, by the age of 30, he was already one of the highest grossing fiduciaries, working with one of the major companies in the nation. And by 31, with his partner, who was equally as amazing, Kai, they started their own company. And that's the company that's behind both Pension 101 and Freetirement Academy. So I start with that giving story because that teacher gave of their time, they gave of their belief and their soul with Vasper, which, Vasper's parents were both doctors, and they really wanted him to become a doctor. And instead he went into finance, which, they didn't quite understand completely, but it has allowed him to give back. And what he did was go with a mission to help teachers. And that's where he and I connected, because he knew that teachers weren't getting what they needed to be successful. And so he started calling me his hype man, because everywhere he went, I was introducing him to fellow superintendents and principals. You got to sit down with this guy. He's going to change your life. And so that's when Vasper knew that at some point he and I were going to give together, in some venture. And now that's where we are today. Giving him my time throughout my career, the parts of education I just absolutely love. Had nothing to do with my paycheck or those hours in the classroom. Those were great. It was everything that happened outside of class. In fact, as a young teacher, I used to go out on the playground instead of eating lunch in the teacher's lounge, because I discovered very early that the teacher's lounge was where a lot of gripey teachers went to complain about kids. And I could not stand it. So immediately I started going out to the playground and throwing, footballs and basketballs and talking to kids. And that's where my first principal said, Jeff, you got to be a principal. And he was the one that shoulder tapped me and said, go do that. You're going to have a bigger impact. And that's what got me into this whole thing.
That's a great story. Especially I like the Vasper story, because a teacher helped him that launched a financial career, and he wanted his financial career to help teachers.
Absolutely.
That's how it works. It's just, science tells us that giving to others brings real meaning to our lives, and that feeling that comes from our fourth element of significance, doing work that creates value for others.
Yeah.
But there's something more to it than that, Jeff, that more than just the giving. It seems to me that when you're giving from living in your purpose, That's where you find the real magic of life.
Mm-hmm.
And now the audience and I would like to experience how it makes you feel to be happily living your life and giving to others through the work God put you on this planet to do. And the people all around you have taken notice. So, Dr. Jeff, just sit back and open your heart and have a listen to what people are saying about the impact you're making on their lives by finding the magic of giving from living in your purpose. One person said, Jeff's real strength is he is a relational leader who builds community through empowering the people around him to take risks and fulfill their potential toward a shared vision. Another said, what distinguishes Dr. Wilson from other superintendents is his ability to lead with optimism and collaboration, even during challenging times. Others said, I appreciate and miss the time we spent together talking about new research, innovative practices, and asking big questions. His work ethic is unmatched. His ability to prioritize his time and maintain several high-pressure projects simultaneously is impressive. Jeff doesn't avoid tough decisions or hide when an unpopular decision for a minority is made for the benefit of the majority. A strong leader, inspiring, motivating. He's positive, empathetic, compassionate, authentic, enthusiastic, well-respected. Jeff has the ability to effortlessly build positive and trusting relationships. In my 20 years in education, it's been rare to find someone in leadership with those types of interpersonal communication skills, which are such a valued part of our job. And finally, an 8th grade young lady said, with significant special needs, shared a quote from the Velveteen Rabbit that said, it's a thing that happens to you when a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real. And then the little girl, in her own words, wrote, thank you, Dr. Wilson, for making me feel real for these past 3 years. So, Jeff, how does all that love make you feel?
So now you made me want to go cry. Honestly, that last piece that you shared there, Ed broke my heart in a good way when I received that. I actually keep that next to my bed. It's special because it's why I did what I did for all those years, right? That if you can reach 1 or 2 kids like that who, perhaps you had an impact on their lives in that way, it's great. But yeah, I think it goes back to, a conversation with my mother when I was 16 years old, standing in our old farmhouse kitchen, and she's staring at a lost but energetic young man who doesn't know what he's going to do with his life. And my mom knew well enough to say, whatever it is you choose to do, it better be with people, and it better be doing something where you can impact the world, because otherwise you're not going to be very happy. And I kind of scoffed and, sloughed it off and said, what does mom know? Of course, everything I've done, since that time has always been about reaching and impacting and uplifting folks. And that's where my heart is.
And I'll tell you what, when you're in it, it's been amazing to do this show, because I interview so many people that are doing this. They're doing work they love with people they love in places they love, and they're creating something of value for others.
Right.
And because they're doing what they were put on this planet to do, it seems easy to them. It doesn't seem that big a deal to them, and they don't really realize the trickle of goodness that's all around them.
Yeah.
And so one little girl, she came and said something to you.
Yeah.
And how many other students that had the same impact but never said anything?
I go back to the principal job, and honestly, I would say in the 13 years I was a school principal, I probably went out to lunch on all but just a handful of those days, and there's a lot of principals who don't do that, who hide out in their offices and let the playground monitors do that. But that was my time of connection with kids. And I used to, as a middle school principal in a tough area, and then I was in a wealthy area. The needs were different, but the symptoms were the same. And there's always going to be that contingent of kids who are disconnected and who don't know how to connect, who need somebody they can trust and somebody they can connect with. And so my practice was I'd go out to the track and I would just walk the track. And by the end of lunch every day, I'd have 5 to 10 or 20 kids that would bump in or bump out, and they wanted to chat about. I remember there's one girl, I called her the Walking Dead girl. We used to watch The Walking Dead, and she did, and she didn't have any friends, but every Monday, man, she couldn't wait for lunch to walk the track with me to talk about what happened on The Walking Dead. And she shared with me at her high school graduation. She shared that story with me. So yeah, no, absolutely. And it's the joy of the job. I mean, you certainly don't do it for the money.
And that giving, that's what this show is all about. It's finding that magic in each of our lives, and it's available for each of us. That's what I believe. It comes from this great big happy circle. It seems like giving your time and your talents and your treasures is a powerful pathway for discovering your purpose. And then giving from living in your purpose brings a profound joy to your life, but also to the lives of those around you too. It seems that giving leads to purpose, and giving from purpose leads to joy. So to truly capture the exponential power of our happy formula, Jeff, I've got to tweak it just a little bit more.
All right.
How's this sound? Power times purpose times giving equals happy to the third power. And that's really, truly, deeply happy.
That's the exponential power of relationship, right?
Does that sound about right to you?
It does. Oh my goodness. I'll never forget, at my doctoral graduation ceremony, there was a speaker, and I wish I could pull his name out of my head right now, but I can't. And his speech was called Be With. That was the extent of the title. And the focus was on exactly that, but this impact that we can have with people simply by being with them, emotionally connected. And, there's all kinds of ways to apply that, but in the end, kids can tell. I was going to say a bad word, but I say kids have a good BS meter. They know when people care about them, when they don't. They know when people are putting a show on and not. And you'll see that in education circles. And there are some teachers and administrators who are afraid of that, and they distance themselves. But my philosophy has always been be with these kids in their joyful moments, in their sad moments, in their needs, and also the adults that work with them as well. So yeah, absolutely be with.
Very good. Very good. All right, let's wrap things up with the lightning round. I just love the power of words and the capacity for great quotes to change lives. So I'm going to read a few of my favorites and have you tell us what they mean to you. Give us the first thing that comes to your mind, Jeff, because we call this lightning round. Here we go. From William Carey. I am not afraid of failure. I'm afraid of succeeding at things that don't matter.
My life. You just nailed it. My reaction is absolutely. I think my greatest fear would be not making a difference.
Yeah, good. This one's from my past. I love this. Once you get where you want to be, you're not there anymore. Perfect.
Absolutely. You get stale if you settle in. I've never settled in. In fact, I had teachers critical of me that I left the principalship because I didn't stay as long as the last lady who stayed there for 20 years. So, a rolling stone gathers no moss.
This is another one from my past, and I may have shared this with you before. Your day belongs to another's dream.
Your day belongs to another's dream. I guess that's the interconnectedness of us as humans, right? That we're all involved in each other's dreams and journeys. I mean, right now, you and I are having an impact on each other's life's journey right now in this moment. So yeah.
Very good. This is from Oswald Chambers. He says, you cannot attain to a vision. You must live in the inspiration of the vision until the vision accomplishes itself. You want me to read that again? That's a deep one.
Yeah, go ahead. Read it again, but I think I got the gist of that one. Go ahead.
You cannot attain to a vision. You must live in the inspiration of the vision until the vision accomplishes itself.
The definition of a startup.
Yeah.
You have to live in that vision, with so many unknowns that are out there. And what I'm doing right now is the opposite of what I've done my whole career, which is, in education, your salary, there's going to be a pension, you know that you have a structure to your day and your weeks and your year. All of a sudden, I'm in this world where you have to live in the moment, which taps into a whole nother part of who I am. And I don't have to worry about where this ends up, or maybe it doesn't, maybe it just keeps evolving. So it's living in the moment. Yeah. It's a startup.
Very good. This is from Adyashanti. He says, a total acceptance of yourself brings about a total transcendence of yourself.
Boy, understanding, not just the good stuff we've talked about today, but your warts and your blemishes and where you've fallen short and where you've let people down, and trying your best not to do that anymore. And, that's especially poignant for a marriage, and certainly, as you evolve in your marriage and don't quit on it, then, and I know that's not always possible, but, I think that's how you survive a marriage, to be honest with you, and how it flourishes at some point.
Yeah, when I first read that, I was writing a blog post about kindness or something, and I found that as to be my head quote. And I thought, why don't we accept ourselves? We, well, if you do something wrong, I'll say, "Oh, Jeff, that's all right. You didn't mean to, or this or that. I can give you forgiveness." But if I do something wrong, I could be really hard on myself. And I read that and I said, God, that should be the easiest thing in the world for us to do, is to accept ourselves, but it's not, and we don't. And
You know why, Matt? Because though we are
well,
surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us run the race with endurance, right? This idea that I think what chips away at us is the cloud of witnesses, and either our perception of what they think of us or what they say about us, or what we think they think about us or what we think they say about us. It's that voice in our head, right? But it's also the voices outside our head too, I think.
I could have put another favorite quote in there. Other people's opinion of yourself is none of your business. No, other people's opinion of you is none of your business. Yeah.
That's not bad.
All right, this is the show anchor from Goth. He says, whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now.
Yeah, I'm reading a book right now about Churchill, and man, talk about the slings and arrows and having to stand alone for such a long time, and really having the entire fate of the free world on one man's shoulders. And that was widely recognized. I mean, he was both the prime minister and the defense minister, and so many were chirping at him not to get involved, and America was standing isolationist. And man, I mean, what that man endured is just amazing for resilience and belief and passion. Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay, folks, and now it's your chance to be a giver too. If you can hear my voice and you were inspired by today's show with Dr. Jeff Wilson, won't you please share a little love with our wonderful broadcast team by giving what you can to WITV7. They're a 501c3 charity on a mission to educate, empower, and encourage. They do good works with your kindness. Jeff, I love the dedication and energy and love that you poured into your students and everyone and everything you encountered during your distinguished educational career. And I admire the enthusiasm and joy and burst of creativity that you're bringing to the second half of your life. And I'm super happy that you've shared your kind, encouraging, and passionate voice on our show today. Will you take just a minute or two and share any parting remarks you'd like to leave with our audience?
Yeah, just, we all know that our age right now is one of those transition times in life, and you go through several of those over the course of your lifetime. And I just think it's so important to keep your mind and your spirit and your mental capacities and your physical capacities at their very best. And so that's what keeps me alive. But in the end, for me, if I don't have relationships that are deep and lasting and caring and kind, it all doesn't make any sense for me. So, that's what I'm after. Is I'm trying to find that balance in my own life and trying to recognize those blind spots I have, and at the same time uplift those around me. And so my favorite thing to do in life right now is and I didn't have a chance to share much of this, but I love to cook for people. And so just yesterday we had a group of 20 over, and I always, the joke is I always make way too much food. Instead of one item, I make 5 items. So, but I love that. It's where I find peace of mind. It's where I find a connection with other people. And so, yeah, do what you love, pursue those passions you have. And for me, another one's drumming. So I'm getting back into that. Enjoy life, man. I mean, you only get one crack at this, so live it to its fullest, I guess.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Jeff. And I also want to thank WITV7 for hosting and promoting our show so we can keep interviewing inspiring guest stars like Jeff and reaching folks just like you, ready to create your own extraordinary lives. And most especially, thank you, viewers and listeners. You'll find links to social media and all things Dr. Jeff Wilson. Find him, friend him on Facebook at jeff.wilson.144 and on LinkedIn at Jeff Wilson Pension 101 and by email at wilsonjeff322@gmail.com. From me to you, dear friends, I love you and I want you to be really, truly, deeply happy too. So go to happyliving.com right now and take our happy quiz. Because measuring your happy helps you focus attention on it, and focusing attention on it attracts change and learning and improvement all to flow right into your life. And once you take the quiz, and it only takes a minute, then give some thought about what we can do together, you and me, to improve the happy of your world, one person at a time. Till next time, I'm Matt Gersper. You are awesome. And this is the Something Significant Show. And I have one more thing for you, audience and world, and Libby and Jeff. I would like you to meet my beautiful new girl. Her name is Piper. Hey, Piper, you want to come out and say hi to the world? Come on.
Piper's been such a good
Come on, Piper.
pup.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I love it.
Hello, sweet girl.
Oh my goodness.
Look at this sweet girl.
Beautiful girl.
Oh.
Dogs make the world go around, my friend. I love it.
All right, Libby, I'm going to do this and we're out.